This podcast is made possible by you, the supporters of WPLN and WNXP, Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's May 15th, 2025. We're halfway through Mental Health Awareness Month, and it was on this day in 1817 that America's first private mental health hospital opened in Philadelphia. It was called the Asylum for the Relief of Persons Deprived of the Use of Their Reason. I'm pretty sure none of the words in that very long name would be used today. Well, except maybe relief and persons. But even then, to say that change in verbiage is a sign of how society has shifted in terms of understanding and caring for mental illness would be a vast understatement. But that facility, which is still in operation, it's now called Friends Hospital, was started by Quakers. And while their original standards and methods wouldn't hold up now, the underlying philosophy was ahead of its time by a lot. Their goal was to treat patients with kindness, to take a gentle approach. Where other institutions of the era considered people with mental illness to be little more than animals or monsters, the Quakers believed everyone had a spark of God inside, no matter what. Their asylum pioneered what they called a moral approach to psychiatric treatment that highlighted the humanity of the people in their care. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. You know, we've come a very long way since 1817 in terms of showing compassion and understanding for people with severe mental illness and for identifying the ways that our mental health can be affected in more subtle and pervasive ways. As a society, we reached a point where a lot of people really do buy into the idea that mental health is health. The brains are just like any other organ. Sometimes they need some TLC because they're a little sick or out of whack due to weird stuff going on in our body chemistry. And the therapy and medications aren't crutches for the weak. They're simply health care that is sometimes necessary. But some folks do still buy into the idea that all you really need is a stiff upper lip, that it's shameful to seek help. And others are just so deep in work or poverty that it feels like a risk to step back and care for themselves. Or they don't know how or where to reach for assistance. Some are living in mental health deserts, far from providers who could make a real difference in their state of mind. According to the most recent state mental health fact sheet from KFF Health, the number of adults in Tennessee who report feeling symptoms of anxiety or depression outpaces the rest of the nation. Just over 37% of people here are suffering in that way, but nearly a third of them aren't getting treatment. Since the Affordable Care Act was passed in 2010, most health plans have been required to provide at least some level of mental health care, but that only helps the insured. And almost half of Tennesseans with a mental illness lack private health insurance. But even if they do have it, 3 million people in this state live in communities that don't have enough mental health care providers. And that lack of providers means insured Tennesseans are 6 times more likely to have to go out of network to find mental health care. Unfortunately, but not unsurprisingly, the data looks similar when you consider the kinds of death that are often related to poor mental health. Tennessee's suicide rate outpaces the nation, especially when it comes to suicides that are carried out using guns. And people in this state are dying from opioid overdoses at a rate that is nearly double the U.S. as a whole. Even if you just want to consider these problems from a societal level instead of a personal one, poor mental health affects the economy for everyone, and it ends up costing taxpayers the money to house folks behind bars. I say that because statistics show that kids with untreated depression are twice as likely as their peers to drop out of school, and we see people with serious mental illnesses end up arrested or imprisoned at rates far higher than people who are mentally well. The National Alliance on Mental Illness put the state of things in Tennessee in terms you can picture. They say the number of Tennesseans with a mental health condition is roughly equivalent to the population of Knoxville times 5. We're talking about the state's third biggest city, 5 times over. That's how many Tennesseans need help. In just a few minutes, as the school year wraps up for mid-state students, what are their reflections on what they've learned, experienced, and worried about? That's coming up after the newscast.
Nashville Public Radio is always here to keep you informed, whether it's the latest news or music you should check out. Every week, What Where Wednesdays shares the latest happenings taking place right here in Nashville by talking to members of our community, putting on events in your neighborhood and beyond. So tune in to What Were Wednesdays every Wednesday, and you can always find events at WNXP.org/events.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. Over the last 2 weeks, Immigration and Customs Enforcement arrested nearly 200 immigrants in Nashville. In a press release, the Department of Homeland Security said everyone who was arrested was undocumented. But Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell says some of those people were here legally, but did not have their documents on hand when they were arrested. Bethany Jackson is the senior counsel at Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors, which represents immigrants in court. She's heard from clients who are staying home out of fear after the arrests. She told our Daily Show, This is Nashville, that includes people with documentation.
We just heard from one of our colleagues that a young woman who has permission to be in the United States and has work authorization left a very good job at a downtown restaurant because her supervisor wanted her to work night shift and she was afraid to do that, so she quit her job.
In response to this fear, the Catholic Diocese of Nashville has told its parishioners they don't need to come to Mass if they fear for their safety. You can hear the full conversation with Bethany Jackson and other immigration law experts at thisisnashville.org. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is changing the threshold for a presidentially declared disaster. That will make it harder for people and local governments affected by major weather events to get financial assistance. To get a sense of how that could impact states, the Urban Institute looked back at disasters from the last 15 years to see what difference the new formula would have made to those recovery efforts. It found that Tennessee would have gotten $468 million less funding under the new approach. That's a difference of nearly 40%. FEMA plans to limit the federal cost share for public assistance funding to 75%. That places more of the burden on state and local governments, and it will deny disaster declarations for snowstorms. One of Nashville's biggest employers, Amazon, is beginning to move into its second office tower in downtown. That comes after the building sat empty for more than 2 years following a pause on the interior build-out. Now the company says it will create a multi-story conference center. Amazon is also moving to lease space in Assurion's headquarters within the Nashville Yards development. The Business Journal reports Amazon workers have been called back into offices 5 days per week, although some in Nashville had been given an allowance because of lack of space. Some leaders with Metro Nashville want the city to expand the use of its sprawling network of underground heating and cooling pipes downtown. Although it is relatively unknown and not easily seen, the district energy system has been using heated and cooled water to control temperatures in dozens of downtown buildings since the 1970s. That includes marquee sites like Bridgestone Arena, as well as private office towers. Now officials are pushing to raise awareness of the system, saying the pipes could be a recruiting tool for developers. They say it's more cost-effective than each building having its own HVAC, and that the tunnels are more reliable in severe weather. The Tennessean reports Councilmember Olivia Hill worked with a similar system at Vanderbilt University and is now pushing to recruit developers. Students across Tennessee can now use state dollars to attend private schools. Applications for the state's school voucher program open today. WPLN's Camelia Burris reports.
Governor Bill Lee's controversial school voucher program is here.
Tennessee's first ever universal school choice program, which will empower parents in every community to choose the right school for their child.
There are 20,000 vouchers available for the upcoming school year. Half are reserved for low-income students, kids with disabilities, and those already eligible for the previous voucher pilot program. The award amount is a little over $7,000, and funds can be used at more than 200 private schools across the state. But critics say the program could disproportionately impact rural school districts that don't have many private school alternatives and act as large employers for their counties. Critics have also warned that these kinds of universal voucher programs can hurt public schools by taking money away from them. Lee says schools will not lose funding due to disenrollment. Camelia Burris, WPLN News.
There is a milestone birthday observation today for the YMCA of Middle Tennessee. The organization was founded on this day 150 years ago. There will be a ribbon cutting this morning at the new portion of the downtown YMCA on Church Street. Additional commemorations are planned this year, including adding new items to a time capsule and reburying it in the new building's cornerstone. The local Wise Origins date to a Bible study held inside a city library and now serves more than 230,000 people annually across 6 counties. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. It's hard to believe, but students here in Middle Tennessee are gearing up for the end of the school year. Our daily show, This is Nashville, caught up with some local students about what they've learned in and out of the classroom.
Hi, my name is Emmy. I'm 17 and I'm a junior in high school. This year, I really learned how to study harder and when to prioritize school. There are just going to be days where you spend hours and hours studying. It's just a part of high school, maybe not my favorite, but it's all part of the growing up experience. The hardest or most challenging thing I've done this year was probably take calculus. It was super difficult to get through, and to be honest, I'm kind of in disbelief that I managed to do it. When I think of this year, I'm proud of myself for pushing myself to do things I never thought I would. And really, I feel like I've become someone that me at 5 would have been really proud of or would have wanted to know. I hope I always remember all the really amazing memories I made with my friends this year. And next year, I'm going to be applying to college, which is super duper scary. And I'm so excited to see what comes next. But it's definitely looming very large. And I can't wait to find out what happens.
Hi, my name is Brendan. I'm 18 and I'm a senior. The best part of this year has been the way that my classmates have kind of come together to really just be with each other in a way that we surprisingly haven't over the 13 years that some of us have been there. College application season is, I think, a rough time for any senior who is lucky enough to get there. Figuring out kind of what you want to do for 4 years, but kind of the rest of your life can be pretty stressful. This year, Students for Education, SFE, has spent a lot of time pioneering legislation to create a non-voting student seat on every school board in the state. I've spent a lot of time down at the Capitol with other SFE members. Today, April 16th, HB 1199 has its final floor vote, and we're really, really excited and really, really ready to make this change in Tennessee. This summer, looking forward to spending a lot of time with my friends, but I'm also kind of looking for the next challenge.
Hi, my name is Hannah. I'm 16 and I'm a junior in high school. The best part of this year for me has probably been my new job. I started working at Dutch Bros. It's very fast-paced and it can be wild sometimes, but I think that customer service and interacting with people is so much fun. I'm really surprised at how much I've changed. I think that my mental health has gotten so much better. I think that I've grown into somebody that is a better version of myself, and I think I've really uniquely figured out how to care for myself and others emotionally. I hope I always remember the confidence that I started to find within myself this year, and not only that, but all the things I've got to experience. I've had a lot of firsts this year, and I don't think that there really has been many last, so I really think I'm just getting started. I'm really proud of everything that's happened, and I can't wait to close out my year.
You can listen to the full show wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for This is Nashville. And thanks for listening to the Nash Villager podcast. We take this look at Nashville news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.